Okay, wonderful. Okay. You see the gallery. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we're going to wait a few more minutes and we will we'll get started. With maybe with so where are you now, Susanne?
I'm actually currently in Munich because my mother is not that doing not that well, so that's why I'm flying back to Iceland next week.
Okay. So the ECKM, sorry, conference was good this year.
At least, I can only talk about myself, and I would say yes, because it was a very nice opportunity to see so many old colleagues and friends I haven't seen for years, and I guess you know this too. This is always a nice opportunity.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So and the weather was beautiful. The weather for Finnish conditions, the weather was beautiful. It was warm, and then we had everything. Nice people and nice weather.
There was quite a lot of participants. I saw there was a large number of publications. Yeah, so it was roughly how many?
I would say on site, as you have seen, they divided it into an online part and an on-site part, and based on what I've seen, maybe on site there were 100, 120 people, I would say, but a decent number,
decent size.
Yeah,
wonderful, great. So seeing a lots of friendly faces here. Hello, Manfred. Hello, David. Hello, Kerry.
Manfred, I missed
hello, John. Hello, Carl.
Hi, Susanne.
Hi, Manfred. I missed you in Lahti.
I was there digitally.
Okay, understand.
Hello, Arun. Hello, Abhijit. Oh, suddenly the screen is getting filled up. That's good news.
Absolutely. Now you see the pressure is on you, Vincent.
Yes. Keep the magic going.
Exactly.
Okay, let's wait one more minute and we'll get started. So we are covering many continents here.
That's very good.
Maybe in the chat, just type the country you're from, or not where you're from, where you're currently attending these webinars. Let's see a bit. India. So South Africa, wow. I was there. Yeah, Cape Town, I was there a few weeks ago. USA, Finland, Poland, Switzerland, Japan, Austria, Thailand, Indonesia, UK. So you can see it's a very international community.
Excellent.
We have someone from Senegal also. I'm a border between Senegal and Gambia. Wow. Ghana. Wow. Wonderful. Ethiopia. Wow. Yes. Saudi Arabia. Australia, of course. Yes. So you can see, yeah. Wonderful. Okay, so welcome everyone. It's a great pleasure to see you all again. We have around, on our list, we have around 250 people who are registered as part of this KMGN research community. So of course, not all participants join at every session, but it's good to see we have quite a large number already joining. So thank you for being here. Let me just, we always have also some newcomers. And let me just share my screen just for a few minutes. And just to give you the usual recap on who we are and what we do. So this is in fact the 13th online meeting that we have with this KMGN research community. That's a community that we animate with Dr. Moria Levy also, who might join us later on today, but who's currently busy for good reason. Her son is getting married in a few days, so she's quite busy arranging for, I guess, the wedding ceremony. So what do we do as part of this community? So we have a webinar on a quarter basis, so 4 times per year. We have also a WhatsApp group with 100 participants, and I will share again in the chat the link to the WhatsApp group. If you are not part of it, you can follow it. Not much really is happening on this group. I mean, from time to time we share some interesting paper or whatever, but feel free to also share. We can be much more active, but I know you're all part of many communities and part of dozens of WhatsApp groups, so I understand that, and that's fine, like this too. So please get this opportunity to join. So like I said, this is our 13th event. So we had presenters over the years, again presenting different type of research at different level of advancement. Some of them were papers that were already published. Some of them were ideas from practitioner or from academics. So we really welcome any kind of type of research. And again, it's an opportunity to engage and share and ask question or potentially even debate if there is good reason to do that. So we have also all our events, our webinars are recorded. So if you miss some of them, they are all available on the YouTube channel. You just type KMGN Research Community and you can watch the past webinars. So we will have one more webinar coming up before the end of this year. So this will be on November 13th. We'll have Dr. Bebeka Kosande, who will talk about the power of knowledge management in the pharma and healthcare industry. So again, at the same time, well, we don't change the time, so it might be maybe 1 hour earlier for some of you, or it might be the same time, depending if you switch to the winter time. Now, for next year, we don't have any speaker which have been identified yet. So if any of you is interested in being one of our next year speaker, please get in touch with me. Again, academic, practitioner, early ideas or more advanced research or whatever, we really welcome all kind of type of research. So feel free to reach out and we'll be delighted to schedule you for next year events. Now, today we are very honored and very privileged to have Professor Susanne Durst with us. So she's a professor of management at the Department of Business and Economics of Reykjavik University. Hopefully I pronounce it not too bad. So if you have been reading a bit of academic publication about knowledge management, I'm sure you came across some of the work of Susanne. If you look a bit at her publication record, so she's a very well published and very well cited academic. So you may have read a lot of work she has done on knowledge risk and risk management, on KM in SMEs, on now on responsible KM and so on, and much more topics. So We are very delighted to have you with us, Susanne, today. And I guess the floor is yours. If you have any question, you can ask through the chat. We can, we can take all the question at the end, or if there is really a burning question, I may ask you directly, Susanne. But otherwise, we will wait for the end of your talk. So the floor is all yours, or the screen is all yours, and we are all eager to hear from you today. Thank you.
Perfect. Vincent, thank you so much for this very kind introduction, and also dear audience, thank you so much for this very nice opportunity to share some of my, let's say, recent activities that still has to do with knowledge management, but considers knowledge management from a specific angle, which is inclusiveness, or I coin it typically responsible knowledge management. And if okay, I would start sharing my screen with you again, and please let me know in case it is not working, because now we all know when you are doing this kind of rehearsal, everything is working, and then suddenly the technique is gone. Good,
all
excellent.
Good, Susanne. Yes, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So you see the title is Inclusive Knowledge Management, and exactly as Vincent mentioned before, I'm primarily into the areas of knowledge management, meaning more specifically knowledge management in smaller entrepreneurial organization. And I also look at knowledge management from a risk perspective. So I coined something like knowledge risk management, and you will see that this view of knowledge is also incorporated in my view, my understanding of inclusive, respectively responsible knowledge management. Let's get started. You see, I do not start, let's say, with a typical agenda where you have these items, but you see, my idea is to make a plea, and you see this plea, even though it is kind of short, I would say is kind of specific as well. It's a plea for more communityship, and I assume you all agree with me, considering the multiple challenges we are exposed to as an individual, but also as members of an organization. There is time for more community-ship again, away from this me, and maybe towards more this us, and within this us, this me is thriving as well. So this is more or less what we are addressing in the next couple of minutes. And you would see, I would like to start with some kind of background information to give you the opportunity to better understand why maybe responsible knowledge management could make sense in the current situation. We all know that the world is kind of fragile, and as a consequence, because we are part of this world or this society, we are fragile too. And we also see at the same time, I already mentioned these multiple challenges we are exposed to. We also see some kind of let's say, sad developments at the societal level. Think about the increasing anti-democratic developments, assuming, from my point of view, that democracy is a kind of a political system that is, with all its flaws, still okay compared to the other options available. And we also see an increasing number of these countries who push forward this my country first. And as mentioned, I think this is a sad development, because we are facing so many different challenges inside organizations, but also outside organizations. We also know, not a big surprise, we are facing information overload. We all know that the topic is not really a new topic. It has been stressed and highlighted many years ago already. But maybe this has even amplified thanks to the development at the ICT level. So we can say that we are sprinkled with information, and we also know that much of this information is wrong by chance, but also by intent. We also know that this spreading of information, here you see we make this differentiation between misinformation and disinformation. I guess you all know misinformation means that we are sharing false information by chance, where disinformation actually means we are sharing wrong information by intent. This is nothing new, and this has been maybe simply part of the beginnings, the emergence of human mankind. So definitely the question is, what is the problem? Because many of you might say, okay, if it has been always the situation, why should we bother at all? The problem, or at least the challenge nowadays, is that everyone can actually start spreading this information, because, you know, the only thing we need is a smartphone, let's say so, and the internet connection, and then we can spread this information packed as a misinformation or a disinformation. And what is maybe really new compared to what we have seen in the past is that the starting platform from where we are taking our understanding, our insights, our knowledge has changed. And these starting platforms are now diverse. Maybe in the past we went to encyclopedias. So there were these pure authorities of knowledge, and nowadays maybe some people, they only get their kind of knowledge from what is shared in certain online social media platforms. And this definitely makes it far more complicated to actually distinguish or to identify what is maybe accurate information and what is false information. From there, we could also argue that what we see nowadays, and also in our areas, I have seen that also many academics are attending these meetings, that we see an increasing tendency to frame, to package our story, to package our way of thinking in a way so that it fits our way of thinking, and maybe at the same time we are no longer that willing, that prepared to also incorporate challenging or even contradicting sources way of thinking. And this is mentioned, it's not only found with us as maybe as a research community, but this is also something we see in the industry at the political level. So you see, what we could actually say is that the way some people handle nowadays facts is rather flexible, and this also means that the narratives or the storytelling, you know, storytelling is a kind of a popular term, not only in marketing, they have been using this term for many years, but also increasingly for different areas in business and management. So this form of storytelling has actually reached a new dimension. From there, definitely, we can also go a bit deeper. And here you see the Freedom of Expression Index. For those of you interested in learning more about this index, simply search for this term. And you see that more or less in all parts of the world, we can say the world, the freedom of expression is showing in one direction, and this is to the decline. Not a big surprise if we move forward. We see something similar when we are talking about censorship. Here too, we see that there are more and more checks in terms of what is considered publishable in many countries, and this refers to these countries that are labeled here or highlighted in green as well. Here too, in case you would like to go deeper into this kind of activities, check for this index on censorship organization. And definitely, because you know, I'm a person who is primarily representing academia or educational profession. We too see that academic freedom is put at risk or put to a test. And here again, also, let's say, in more or less all countries of the world, we all know, hopefully you are not exposed to this, we see an increasing political interference in the entire education system, not only limited to higher education. Certain kinds of topics, certain kind of books are added to an index, added to a list. They are no longer accepted as the perspectives, the books to use in the education. We also see that research projects, funding is put on hold. And what is specifically deteriorating and, let's say, disturbing in a negative sense, specifically for us representing a knowledge management community, is that we also see that in some countries certain knowledge, certain insights is removed from the websites. These are, as you can imagine, information about certain topics like climate change and the consequences. But we also see something similar when it comes to research on marginalized groups. And definitely, I have already mentioned climate change. We could also look into this figure, which actually shows, unfortunately, the typical situation that the poorest among us have to suffer the strongest. And here you see from the carbon emissions. If you turn to the left-hand side of this figure, you see the bottom 50%, and you see, even though they only contribute or they are only responsible of 12% of the carbon emission, they face an 75% of the expected relative income losses. And then you see on the right-hand side of this column, we see the situation of the 10% of the richest persons or the richest groups within societies, within countries. Here too, in case you are interested in digging deeper, you are invited, in case you haven't done so before, to check this company or this organization called Inequality.org. So this was more or less a kind of starting point. So you see, I'm a very positive person, so all looks great. But now let's discuss what could we possibly do about this. And my proposal is, or my idea is, to possibly think about something that, as mentioned before, I labeled responsible knowledge management, and this includes, you will see, inclusive knowledge management as well. And before I'm going deeper into responsible knowledge management and what I understand by RKM, let's go back to traditional knowledge management. You know, traditional knowledge management has been more or less triggered and developed by different disciplines. We have IT, we do have information systems as part of it, definitely philosophy, strategic management, accounting, HRM, and whatever you have in mind. And let's assume, because I'm, as mentioned before by Vincent, I'm a professor of management, so I'm primarily into management, and most precisely into strategic management. And if we approach knowledge management from a strategic point of view, then we come to the conclusions that traditional knowledge management actually uses this approach to, let's say, explaining what are the differences between successful organizations and less successful organizations by looking into very specific resources. And this resource is called knowledge or knowledge assets. And there is this idea that in order to develop a competitive advantage, or even sustain a competitive advantage, or even sustainable competitive advantage, companies should focus on knowledge creation and should also make sure that this knowledge is managed in a strategic way, so that this knowledge is one day becomes an asset, so a strategic asset. So this also means, as a consequence, that traditional knowledge management has as its unit of analysis primarily the individual organization. And here the individual organization is typically a private company. And this also means if your focus is primarily on an organization and what an organization can do in order to address the challenges, primarily the business challenges ahead, such a kind of approach has difficulties when we are trying to explain, when we're trying to predict societal challenges and the consequences, as the examples I have just mentioned before. It also falls short because, you know, if you have a traditional approach of knowledge management that puts the individual private organization as a focal point, and is also very much into what can be done in order to develop and also to expand or maintain a strategic competitive advantage, then it also has an issue when we are thinking of making knowledge accessible to many people and not simply one organization or the organizational members or the other organizations the company is collaborating with. And you see, we have more an emphasis on protecting this relevant knowledge instead of making this knowledge accessible. But my view is, my way of thinking is that in order to address these challenges we have seen before, these challenges go beyond the individual, goes beyond the individual organizations, the individual country, but it should be addressed at a societal level or a world level, then we also need to make sure that this knowledge creation, knowledge sharing, knowledge storage is being done at a higher level. So this is something brief about traditional knowledge. Now we can actually turn to my definition of responsible knowledge management. And as you see, I define it as follows. This RKM focuses on responsible knowledge management processes. I guess you all are somewhat aware of the typical processes, so I'm more or less using the same vocabulary we have seen already before. It's about knowledge creation. Of course, we start with knowledge identification, knowledge creation, knowledge transfer, sharing, preservation, storage, retention, and then definitely also application. But you see, in contrast to the knowledge management we would see in an individual firm, these knowledge processes are utilized for the common good, so for initiatives, for measures that benefit the society to address present as well as future challenges. So my understanding of this responsible knowledge management has already in its DNA from the very beginning a world perspective or a societal perspective. If we go a bit deeper, then you also see, not a big surprise on what you heard before. This RKM is human-centered, so the human beings, us, we are in the center of this way of thinking. You see, it's about diversity, it's about inclusion and also equity, and everyone is actually invited to have a voice, but also to take responsibility. You know, it's always easy to make good comments. What matters are the actions, and it's not enough. Comments are nice, don't get me wrong, but I would also like to see the proactive activities from those people who are coming up with a good comments. You also see that this RKM is based on collaborative, just to stress it again, communityship. And maybe you have come across this term communityship before. It has been coined by Henry Mintzberg a couple of years ago. And for Henry Mintzberg, communityship is a community where everyone takes responsibility and everyone also sees leadership as a practice. So it's not, leadership is not a position of authority, but everyone can actually be their own leader. So everyone practice leadership. You see, the emphasis is on leadership, on action, and not on the leader as a title or a specific role in the organization. We also, not a big surprise if we invite everyone to this RKM and to concrete activities, that we also consider partners of equal standing. So it doesn't matter if you are young, if you're old, if you're coming from this part of the world or that part of the world, if you are a man, a woman, whatever. We are interested. So us is interested in getting something done together. You also see that my understanding of RKM actually is based on this assumption, not a big surprise, that knowledge is dynamic and knowledge is something neutral. So depending on the situation, knowledge might lead to an asset. So knowledge is something of value, but we, this community, also considers and acknowledges the many situations where actually knowledge is closer to a liability or a negative risk. So for those of you who have been working in the insurance sectors, and typically we are making this differentiation between positive risk and negative risk. So, and as a consequence of this, if you approach knowledge from a neutral point of view, this also means that it incorporates the ideas, the underlying notions of risk management in its, let's say, its structure. And it also makes sure that the community members develop a decent understanding of risk management. So here too, risk management is not only something that is in the hands of the risk managers or the people on top of an organization. Based on this, then let's think about how could a society look like that is space that has incorporated these RKM principles I have shown to you before. And let's start maybe with teaching. And teaching for me, even though I'm representing higher education here, teaching, when I think about teaching RKM, this education should start in the kindergarten. So already here, we should make sure that then the little human beings are already prepared to live in an RKM based society. So this also means that when we are thinking of teaching approaches, we make sure that relevant knowledge, this could be old knowledge, this could be new knowledge, is not only, let's say, retained or preserved, but it's also made accessible using the different channels available. But at the same time, considering that knowledge is dynamic, it's also very important that we continually review and check whether this knowledge is still relevant, because we also know that from time to time, knowledge should be discarded or what could be maybe labeled also unlearned, so that there is room and space for new ways of thinking, different ways of thinking. Not a big surprise. We are open for different types of knowledge. We are also open for different ways of creating this knowledge. And definitely, we also incorporate knowledge that is created using our hands. So coming back or building the bridge to vocational training, where many of the professions are still working with their hands, and I would still consider them as knowledge workers. And definitely, we cultivate critical thinking and digital literacy skills. But as mentioned before, we not only start with that when the people have entered the colleges, universities, or whatever. The basis, the foundation for these skills and competences should be grounded in from the kindergarten stage onward. Now let's turn to research. How could research look like in an RKM-based society? You see, the research that is being designed and also planned is participatory and inclusive from A to Z. So this means we are not only incorporating members, different types of members of the society in the data collection process, and maybe also in any membership activities, but we already plan with them the research. We sit together with them and identify the problem we would like to focus on and why this is a problem. We discuss everything, and then also, as mentioned before, work with them, collaborate with them throughout the process. You also see, when we are talking about problems, it's about social problems, it's about societal problems, it's definitely not about spotting gaps that have been derived artificially from the literature, and definitely we do not make this mistake of equating a gap with a problem. We also, I think there's no need to discuss it, but unfortunately, we have to do it increasingly. Definitely, we adhere to the principles of research ethics, the principle of rigor research, and all of us who have been trained should be very, very aware of this situation. And definitely, once the new knowledge or the challenge, the updated knowledge is created, we should think about how to make it accessible to the community, and so to make sure that this knowledge is also being spread in the suitable and also the desired way. And definitely, you see, specifically because we have discussed in the very beginnings this issue of information overload and also being exposed to misinformation and disinformation, definitely also here, when it comes to ethical knowledge dissemination, we also make sure that we are not unduly manipulate the findings produced. And of course, we take advantage of tools here, Gen AI tools, but they are used with a specific purpose in mind, and we are always transparent about how we used it and specifically why we used these AI tools. But the main message still is that the research problems, the research questions are they are still the outcome of people and people who sat together and discussed what needs to be done. Then definitely, when it comes to research, we should also think about the education, the training of the new generation of researchers, regardless if these researchers will stay in academia or will do research in the corporate environment, or also in other parts of the public sectors. Here, in my view, what is very important is that we go back to an education that gives these young researchers, doctoral students, master students, bachelor students, and definitely also postdocs, an opportunity to learn actually this craft with all its facets. So I actually associate this kind of training with a vocational training, where you also learn to become, let's say, an import-export clerk, whatever you have in mind. So I don't personally, I don't like these usage or exploitation of younger researchers only in specific parts of the entire research project. Maybe we have learned that these doctoral students, if we talk about a doctorate student, is good when it comes to analyzing data, and that's why this person is only in charge of analyzing data. But at the same time, we do not give this person the opportunity to also learn how good, decent knowledge is being planned, started, prepared, executed, and then also finished. If we assume that scientific journals still have, let's say, a kind of future, so they are still a kind of a raison d'etre for these journals, then we also need to would like to see editors who also see originality and uniqueness differently, that the focus is really on a social or societal impact, that they also specifically, again, in the area of business and management, that they also invite replication studies, so that the focus is really on meaningfulness and relevance, and not just in going up in certain kinds of rankings. And this last item here on this slide actually goes back to this idea of lifelong learning. Here too, definitely, we would also expect from researchers, regardless of the development, that they also train them permanently and broadly, that they keep learning new ways of doing research, different worldviews, different perspective. Maybe when I have been trained in the past more from with quantitative methods, that I only learn qualitative methods, and vice versa. So then, of course, we should also think about what does it mean for us now, as individuals in such a kind of society, because, it stands and falls with us, as mentioned. RKM calls not only for comments, but also for action. So then I think what many of us needs is actually to learn or to relearn to trust in our own knowledge, and also be confident in what we have learned. And there is no need to always turn to an AI a tool for even the simplest question. We are also courageous. We stay curious. We are mature. You see, we are also self-determined, and definitely we can also stand up for what we do. So we even stand together when the wind goes stronger. And what is also very important, because you have seen, if it is about communityship, the likelihood is high that we are meeting people with completely different ways of thinking, with completely different mindsets. This also needs that we all need to learn to deal with ambiguity. And we have to learn to tolerate opposites, and depending on the part of the world you are coming. For many parts, uncertainty, if we somewhat associate ambiguity also with uncertainty, this is terrible, this is unsettling. We have reservations about all dual meanings and ambiguities, but at the same time, we also lack suitable tools for thinking in a different way. So we have been trained. Our education was based on striving for unambiguity. And maybe to start with this kind of learning process, we could maybe do some research to learn how other regions, how other cultures are dealing with ambiguity. Are there more options than simply dividing the world into true and false, right and wrong? Is there maybe also something like neither nor and but and you can imagine that people who are broader in the way they are in their categories they are using, it makes them also more tolerant of contradictions. And definitely what we also need is in this regard that we question or come up with a new conception of truth, validity, reliability, and maybe, and it sounds easy, but actually I would say it sounds also like a strong move. We start with sometimes simply admitting that we are at a loss and at a loss, so then not considered as a weakness, but as a kind of a serene humility, and also not considered as arrogant, but or an arrogance, but really as a competence, and as a competence in order to establish the basis for mutual understanding. But you also see that if we are preparing ourselves for an environment where we have to act under the condition of ambiguity or dual meanings, we also need to be prepared to take bets and maybe also to practice risk management. So don't worry, I have reached my concluding slide, and you see this concluding slide brings us back to Achilles. I'm pretty sure my pronunciation was bad, so very sorry for this. So it's he was a Greek soldier and poet, and apparently said, "We don't rise to the level of our expectations, but we fall to the level of our training." And so you see, I look forward to working together with all of you, and maybe in my talks there was some kind of ideas you found interesting, and I would be happy to discuss them maybe afterwards now, but also later on. So thank you very much. And for those of you interested maybe in reading more about my activities in this regard, here you see I added 3 references. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Susanne, for sharing your view on responsible and inclusive knowledge management. And it raised a lot of questions and activity in the chat room, so which is good. I guess let's first quick question, which is just the warm-up question. There was one question out of curiosity. What does the red symbol on the right top corner of your slide represents? Is it?
Oh, this is actually thank you so much for asking. This is more or less a logo of the university,
Okay.
And the university building actually resembles a solar system. So in the center, not a big surprise, you have the sun, and for example, I'm sitting in the wing called Uranus, and then of course we have the other the other star system, solar system. And the idea is that once a company grows, then the building is flexible to also add a new item, so that maybe one day the complete solar system is there.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'd ask the question, look to me like the 9 planetary boundaries. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Brett had a lot of question or comments. Do you want to raise one question or comment, Brett?
I don't trust myself, quite frankly, because I thought this was a little too political for our profession. We tend to when we get into the political side, I think we lose our value as knowledge managers because we have to be arbiters. And if we start taking opinions and getting into, what is right and wrong and all this other kind of stuff, then we as knowledge managers aren't doing our job of helping leaders make decisions, helping organizations make what's in their interest. I'll be very frank, I didn't see anything in here that isn't what I'm supposed to be doing every day as a knowledge manager. So if what you're saying is we've lost our way as knowledge managers, okay, I'll buy that. I'd be very frank and with no disrespect, but I didn't see anything that you're suggesting here that says anything different from what I'm supposed to be doing as a knowledge manager every single day. So if it's a clarion call to get back to the basics, okay, I'll go ahead and buy in on that. But and as an American, I have very different opinions apparently about how things are or should be with respect to information and knowledge. Your earlier comments, I found a little, I didn't take where you were going the right way. So I just wanted to turn my camera off. But I mean, you're doing research and you're doing academics and you're doing things the right way. So whether we disagree or not, it's not like you're just making some wild stuff up, and depending on where you are, what kind of work you do. The government actually is as much a part of KM as private sector. So I don't agree that this is just about private companies and all this other kind of stuff. In fact, it's more important for governments because that's where the accountability comes from. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Susanne,
Yeah,
you want to react?
thank you so much. Yeah, that's why we are meeting, isn't it? It's about having a debate, and what we have seen here. This was his. Sorry, I forgot your name. His opinion,
Brett,
yeah.
Yeah.
I understand this from his perspective, and I'm representing a researcher, and in our field, research philosophies is a critical topic, and this also means that we have to address the world from different point of views, and some are more approaching the world from a positivistic point of view, which I got from your comment, and other people see the world from a different perspective, and so it is.
Yes, we all agree to disagree. Great.
Yeah,
Who has a follow-up question for Susanne? Don't be shy, please take the mic. Yes, Manfred?
Yeah, it's always fun to talk to you, Susanne. Thank you for your presentation. It really resonates to our vows, at the end when we graduate to, follow the truth in the positive sense. What I find interesting is that in Europe, we are talking now about responsible artificial intelligence. And now I hear your term, responsible knowledge management. And, the problem is that coming from the business ethics domain, various countries, which are represented in this call as well, have different ideas of ethics and right and wrong. And Brad obviously argued for one position. And for example, in the knowledge management, we have this open knowledge and proprietary knowledge, just to mention two dichotomies. So I think, we really should focus on explaining what we observe And the moral interpretation maybe then is something about ethics and philosophy and all that part, but it's maybe not part of management, Susanne. I'm not sure how you, obviously you have a different position, but I think there is business ethics, which is responsible for corporate governance, all that stuff, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you are, Manfred, thank you so much. I absolutely agree with you on these responsible things that we are adding nowadays, everything to responsible. You may have, I don't know if you attended this conference as well. I actually presented this original idea regarding responsible knowledgement at the Target conference, and I think it was in 2021. So it was prior AI, and definitely nowadays everyone is talking about responsible, but you know, you have we all know these kind of buzzwords. Think about resilience too, and definitely we have to make sure, and as far as it is possible, that first of all that we create a kind of a common understanding so that we can at least have a dialogue, regardless if we agree or disagree, but that the dialogue is positive. And I assume this is also something that Brett is still interested in, even though maybe he has a completely different viewpoint on this. And definitely it is about defining something. With the ethics part, Manfred, here the ethic parts I addressed was primarily from the research point of view. So, and then of course you are right. Maybe when we are talking about ethics in general, there are differences, but I would say when it comes to doing rigorous research, they are kind of general standards that work more or less in all parts of the world, in the Americas, in Europe, in Africa, and all the continents.
For example, one thing in research is disclosure. Yeah, we publish. This is one of our, you know, very simple common denominators. And for example, in military research, you exactly do not publish, right? And the same in pharma, and the same in other proprietary topics. So I think there are some differences as well, and we should really not say this is responsible, aka superior, you know. If we come closer to the truth, I think this is superior, yeah? If we explain more, this is superior, but not in moral terms.
Yeah, but you see, if this was your perception of my proposal of RKM, this was not my intention to present this as something superior, but as an alternative, as mentioned before, where I try to highlight that the traditional KM goes back to private organization. And Brett, I disagree with you. The public sector was not the starting point of knowledge management, definitely not from a research point of view. Business management point of view. This is as mentioned before, and then the different types of organizations were added here and there. So Manfred, it's an alternative, a way of a different way of seeing what is going on and in the world, and some people may see it as a political topic, but then I could also answer everything we're doing has a kind of a political connotation in a way. As individuals, as organizations, we are not political free.
Yeah, agree.
Wonderful. So based on time constraint, we'll have to, unfortunately, to end the discussion here, but feel free to get in touch directly with Susanne. I'm sure she would be happy to further discuss with you on such kind of topics. So next meeting will be on November 13. So we will send you a reminder and everything. And we also, I don't know if we can officially announce it, but Susanne will also join us at Bangkok University starting next year. So she will be part also of our IKI team. Great. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you so much, Susanne, for presenting your
you.
work. And yes, and that's what research is all about. I mean, people agree, people disagree, and there is debate, and that's how things evolve and grow. So thank you all again for all being here, and we'll be in touch very soon. Stay well and stay
Absolutely.
safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.